This feels so weird because I haven't filmed a video in several months. I haven't thought about making a video in several months. I apologize for the sounds that you hear outside. My neighbors on that side have construction they've been doing for the past like 2 months. But yeah, here I am. Hello, I'm back, maybe, we'll see. I have been struggling so much the past year, the past several months for sure, but really, if I have to be honest, all my life I've been afraid of being seen, being perceived, and I see it coming out so much right now, right in this moment, in this week, in this month, and I feel like the only way I can kind of counteract it is to do it anyway, you know what I mean? So, you know, I find that the vulnerable videos are the most relatable, and, you know, I invite you to comment if you are feeling something similar, something, you know, you feel like you're really afraid of being your authentic self, because that's how I feel right now, and I'm definitely gonna ramble, it's what I do. But yeah, so the past several years, I feel like I have not really been in the place of being my authentic self, especially with my parents, with those around me. It feels like I have presented myself in different ways to different people, and a lot of my life has also been about kind of being a copycat in terms of like trying to be like others in the way that I admire them. And I feel like there is some merit in there, because sometimes it's when we see things in others that it brings it out in ourselves, right? For me, at one point, it was all about handwriting, copying people's handwriting, because I just liked the way it looked. And now my handwriting looks kind of like a combination of all the handwritings I've mimicked over the years. You know, being the way that I dress, right? Trying to find my style in the way that others are styled. And this past year, when I was living in my car, living on the road, I was more about trying to be myself in the best way I could. So if I made videos, I didn't want to make videos just because my friends were making videos, or just because I saw someone talk about a specific topic. Whenever it comes to creation of something, I never want to be just a copy, because I know that I'm meant to be more than that. I'm meant to be a leader, I'm meant to be original, I'm meant to be different. And it's not in a way where it's like, I have to be different, it just is, right? And this past week, I said it before in my videos that before something happens kind of in terms of like astrologically, or, you know, we shift to a new sign, I feel like each sign, especially for me, carries a different energy, and I tend to feel the energy of the sign even before we enter that time of the month or that time of the year. I tend to feel the energies of it sometimes before I even know how to interpret it. So we're in Scorpio now, and I'm not going to say I'm an expert whatsoever, but when I think of Scorpio, I think of mystery, I think of the feminine, I think of the dark feminine, I think of also authenticity. And I feel like these energies have been coming up for me, especially yesterday and today, in terms of me wanting to be fully in my feminine energy. And if I have to think over the past few years, I feel like around this time, end of October and November, I really start to feel this energy of wanting to be in my feminine. And what has been coming up for me has been this feeling that I have been presenting more as masculine to protect myself and to protect my feminine. And it's not even something I've been doing consciously. It's just been something that, you know, when I'm in a professional environment like my workplace, I feel like I need to present myself in a way that's acceptable to the corporate structure. It's not really a corporation at all. I live in Sedona, you know, it's not weird or wild to see people dress a certain way or act a certain way or do certain practices, and it's like, why am I so afraid to present the side of me that likes crystals, to present the side of me that wants to dress like a hippie, you know, to present the side of me that likes tarot? When I first started, I feel like I was a lot more expressive about that. I was a lot more open, and even seeing customers and people in the community and even other of my coworkers showing that in different ways, it's like, why am I so afraid of presenting myself as that, you know? It's not a question of whether I'm being, you know, inauthentic if I present myself that way, right? Because those are the things I enjoy. I even stopped doing those practices, such as like, you know, interacting with my crystals, doing tarot, like all these things kind of just took a back seat for me. And this past week especially, it comes up every day, every week for me to come back to my spiritual side and my spiritual practice, and just even just being still. And there are a lot of things that will come through, and honestly I haven't been acknowledging them. And today and yesterday it's been like I really just need to sit still and let these things come through, because it's like, why am I so afraid of being perceived? Something as simple as walking to work, something as simple as even going outside to walk around the neighborhood. Those are things that for some reason I'm afraid of doing. I'm afraid of being seen, even going out to get the mail or going out to take out the trash. I'm just afraid of being perceived. And it's like, is it race? Is it discomfort? Like, what in me is so afraid of being seen and being shown? And it's also manifested in my fear of making videos, not wanting to be on social media, not wanting to do anything. And it's funny because today I was reminded of something that my coworker told me quite recently, actually, was that like, if you were on TV or on YouTube or, you know, something where you are seen, you would be so popular. And it was, at the time I kind of like laughed and I said thank you, but today it kind of came up for me again. And it's like, I've always known, especially the past few years since my spiritual awakening, I've known that part of my purpose is about being seen, and part of my purpose is about speaking and communicating and sharing and teaching. And it's like, the very thing that my purpose is surrounded by or evolved by is the very thing I'm afraid to do. I've even seen it manifest the past few weeks, actually, as like me stumbling over my words or stuttering, like, or wanting to say certain words and then different words come out. And it was just, it's been so intense that it's like, I've never had this issue before. You know, I might be someone who's nervous about public speaking, and I put it in quotes because it's like, once I start, I'm fine, but the thought of it sometimes makes me a little uneasy. And it's like, I am a natural speaker, but all my life I have silenced myself in the presence of my parents, not wanting to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, not wanting to be judged. You know, and even my fear of being on social media, being on YouTube, has been surrounded mainly by being found by my parents online to express. I don't speak to them, right? So, you know, there was a phase before I blocked them and restarted social media where, you know, there were just message after message on different platforms that I just did not want to even see. And so in the past few months, even when I wanted to be on YouTube or Instagram or use my real name on social media, it's just like, oh, I'm afraid of being found by them because I don't want to talk to them. You know, when I speak to them, it's just trauma for me. And it's like recognizing that that is an unsafe space for me. And so I've kind of put it in every realm of my life where I don't want to be seen. I don't want to draw too much attention to myself. You know, I don't want to be different or unique. I want to blend in so that I'm not forced to be in the spotlight. And it's like, the energy that I'm feeling right now as we've entered Scorpio is that it's almost like this push to be outwards, to be out there, to be exposed again, and to be authentic and real with myself and with others. And it's like, wow, you know, why is this something that I'm pushing myself away from, right? And again, resonating on what that woman said, because I know she's deeply spiritual and I deeply respect what she was saying. It's just like recognizing that others perceive it in me, but I refuse to perceive it in myself. Recognizing that, you know, back when I was on social media and I was in my car earlier this year, there was this energy of wanting to be in the spotlight, but it was from a place of fear still. It was this energy of like, I want to be popular, I want to make money from YouTube, but I don't want to get too popular, I don't want to be too seen. And it's like, those are two completely conflicting energies. And another thing that came up for me a few days ago was how much I am so centered on pleasing others. And it comes up in like all these different ways where I'm like, oh, I've dealt with this once this year, or, you know, last month this came up for me, therefore it's already done. But it's like these things keep coming up for me and it's like, why am I so fixated on pleasing others, right? And that also comes with the fear of being seen, wanting to remain in being a form of myself that makes others comfortable rather than making myself comfortable. You know, I recently got a bike from a friend of mine, and I've been going back and forth about whether I want to keep it or not, because it's an e-bike and I actually just want a regular bike. And I've been going back and forth between like trying to talk myself into liking it because it's an expensive e-bike, versus just selling it and just getting myself a simpler bike. And it's like, I don't want this e-bike, but I've been so like, I don't want to disappoint them, even though they have told me to sell it. Not wanting to like make their purchasing it be less, or them giving it to me for less, you know, being ungrateful by selling it. And it's just like, why am I like this? Why am I so centered on the thoughts of others? I also see it manifesting, even though I don't plan on leaving my current job, at least for several years until I finish schooling. Even being in this energy where I feel uncomfortable with the idea of moving up in the company or changing to another job that might suit my schedule and my needs more, because I'm afraid of disappointing others. I'm afraid, you know, I'm a department manager, so I'm afraid of like stepping down and having all the hard work I've done being undone. And it's just like, why am I so focused on how others feel about things that I do? And that's literally where I was 2 years ago today. Not today, but 2 years ago when I lived in my first apartment and I moved out. I found myself experiencing and facing the same thing with how I screened my decisions through what I thought that my mother would approve of. And it was like so eye-opening at the time, like, oh my God, every single decision I've made up until now, I've done it through the lens of what my mother would want. Even though my mother had never seen my apartment or been to my apartment or visited me at any point in that year, I was still so focused on whether she would be pleased with me or not. And even the following year, last year, I found myself having this conversation unfold in my head where it was like a conversation with my mother, but I would really say it's a conversation with spirit. And recognizing that the path that I went down to go to college, to go to pre-med, was not for myself, it was for my mother. You know, even at times where I was considering other paths, I felt like because I had been saying I wanted to be a doctor all my life, that I needed to continue with it to please my parents. And even though at the time when I started college, my parents were like, oh, you don't do it to please us, do it because it's an expensive venture, right? But I still felt so in need of their validation that I went on that path just to make them happy. And I'm not upset by it. It has actually set me up for where I am now. I'm studying holistic nutrition, I'm studying herbalism, and I'll be a master herbalist by the time I finish in 3 years, or 2 years now. And, you know, recognizing that children, as a child, I knew what my purpose was. I was very much aware of it, but the way that I voiced it was through the lens of what was socially acceptable. Like, the words I literally remember saying was that I wanted to heal people. But at the time, the only thing I was really aware of was medicine. So I thought, okay, I have to become a doctor to do this, even though there were times during my pre-med journey where I really just didn't feel aligned with it. It didn't feel safe for me. It felt more like, you know, I couldn't see myself past a certain point with it. And now I'm on a path of herbalism, and I see it as, in this present incarnation, being a continuation of this vessel's ancestors, because, you know, there are certain things about cooking and herbalism that come just easily and naturally, and I just feel more aligned with it. I feel aligned with magic. I feel aligned with, you know, kind of like working with others one-on-one. And yet, like, when I started my my current studies, and I said I wanted to do herbalism alongside nutrition, I was very fixated. I wouldn't say fixated, but my idea at the time, my business idea, was surrounding tea and surrounding magic and combining those two into one business. And since starting, I feel like I've kind of gone away from that, but it's like, no, that feels aligned. I can use all the things that I'm learning to teach and to help others, but the herbalism path is not one that I need to stray from. You know, this path of, I'm hearing enlightenment, this path is all very much aligned for me, right? I'm a master number 11. You know, I feel more aligned with spirituality than I did with religion and Christianity. Being, again, a quote-unquote hippie, and being one with the earth, and, you know, all these things that in this present moment I'm like afraid of expressing, that is where I feel safe and aligned. You know, when I think of my journey while living in my car, I wasn't super content in terms of not having enough, but I was content in terms of being in nature. I was content in terms of the different forests and woods that I was in, and the visions that came through even since last October, November, ironically. The visions that have come through since then onwards have all been surrounding this energy of living on kind of like a homestead, but living in a place where I have a large garden, a place where I can commune with the earth and the spirits of the earth, one where I'm able to share with others, I'm able to cook, I'm able to, I have an apothecary, and it's just like all these visions of who I am. I won't say who I will be, who I am. And now coming to the space where it's like I have to remember that every few months to be like, am I living in a place where I'm aligned to that? And it's like, oh my God, not really. Like, I'm still hiding myself. I'm still trying to put a shadow over that part of myself to be more tolerable for others. There's a small portion of people in Sedona that are aligned with that, or who might have those values but don't express it in the way they dress, and that's perfectly fine. But the part of me that wants to express it in all the ways, in the way that I dress, in the way that I eat, in the way that I move, and all these things, it's like I have to come into a place of aligning with that fully in order to attract the things and the people that I want in my life. It's just like, wow. It's just been eye-opening to me, because again, these are all things that have been awakened to me multiple times over the past few years, multiple times. But ever so often I'll become kind of distracted by life or by attaining certain goals, and the 3D that I will come out of that space of wanting to live in that 5D energy. And then when I come into that space of the 5D, it's like, oh wow, this is home. This is where I feel safest. This is where I feel most comfortable. Why am I so afraid of expressing that? I am in a 9 pinnacle of my life. I'm in a 9, going into a 9 year in my life. I was born in 2000, so it's very easy for me to just line up with the numerology of each year for everyone. But, October is a 9-month for me, and I've paid off my car, which has been amazing. But also the energy of like coming to a place where I'm done trying to be what others want me to be. And I'm not gonna say like I'm gonna dive completely into it. It can be scary sometimes for me to show my true self, but coming to a place where I choose to embody who I truly am and reawaken and be aligned to who I am is very important. I could even argue that the space where I'm at, and even in studying holistic nutrition, I am interested in nutrition. But I find myself like I should just be doing the certificate for the Master Herbalism. I know I should. But the part of me that feels like I need to get a bachelor's degree or I need to get a higher certification is the one that is staying for a 2 or 3 year cycle of classes that I might not need or ever use again. It's like, oh, Nadine, what are you doing? And again, that came up for me a few months, like a month into, not even a month, like 2 weeks into my coursework. I was like, I should really just be doing a certificate. But because I feel the need to be more successful or more like valid, I feel like I need to have more, like I need to have a bachelor's. I don't know. I'm on the fence about it because I feel like I could still benefit from everything, every part of the degree, but it also feels like I'm wasting time by doing the full coursework. Yeah. Yeah, like, oh my God, do I really need to do all this? Like, part of me is doing it to please you know, people I consider my mentors, or to align more with my current job, but that current job isn't my purpose. This isn't where I'm gonna be forever. Wow, this is